first picture of Nicolas Maduro, who is in US custody. He was on board the USS-2 Greyhound, and that is the first picture of the Venezuelan President Maduro, who was taken into the custody of the US military, as we are being told that he and his wife being brought back to the United States. High possibility he will be taken to New York to face the trial, and that's the first picture of Maduro when he was captured in custody of the US military officials, being brought to the United States. Just a few minutes for that news briefing to begin, where Donald Trump will answer all the questions behind this big move, as we've seen Russia, China, and several global actors condemning this move by the United States. But that's the first picture that also establishes Maduro is alive, as doubts were being raised by the Venezuelan vice president and the officials of the regime, saying provide proof of life. Maduro and his wife are missing. The US must answer. And that certainly answers the question that Maduro and his wife, alive in custody of the US military officials. Let me take this to Rohit, who's also joining us on the broadcast. Rohit, lots happening, fast-paced developments any minute now. Trump to begin that news briefing, a lot of answering to do. Will he take all the questions put out by the media, or will they just make a statement straight up and stick to what they have? What more are you picking up from your sources?
I think he's going to have a full-fledged conference. I think he's going to take as many questions as possible. He will be accompanied by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. He will be accompanied by General Kane. And he intends to answer as many questions and be as transparent as he can in that press conference. And before, going to this press conference, which we're all waiting on, he did give an interview to Fox News, where he acknowledged that there have been some injuries to U.S. forces, but there have been no death in the operation. He also talked about how one of the helicopters took some hit, but they were able to fly it back safely back from Venezuela. He also talked about how Maduro tried to escape but was not able to because the U.S. ambushed him pretty well. And then, he went on to talk about that this operation was planned 4 days ago. They were waiting for the weather to be clear. It was clear last night and they carried it out. He talked about how he was guarded. Maduro was in a highly guarded fortress in a way, and that they had to break steel barriers to get into the house to basically take Maduro and his wife into custody. He also talked about that he will also talk about in this press conference will be about making a decision on who takes over power in Venezuela. We've heard, there could be an opposition leader who could be taking it on, but he did not support Nicolas Maduro. He talked about there's a vice president in charge right now. So I think the U.S. might want to keep its options open. And he also alluded to the fact that the U.S. will eventually control oil and oil companies in Venezuela. I think that has been one of the biggest points that has been talked about for almost months, in that what happens to the oil in Venezuela. So I think President Trump making it clear that the U.S. will have say on who rules Venezuela, either a democratically elected government or whoever President Trump thinks would not be hostile towards the U.S. And then also making sure that the oil reserves in Venezuela are taken care of, and the U.S. will have a lot of say in how those oil companies are run. So a lot to look forward in this press conference, which was supposed to start 34 minutes ago. We've been told that they have been waiting. Everybody's been kept waiting right now because President Trump is trying to make sure he has everything ready, because it's going to be a long, drawn-out conference, but he will try to answer as many questions as possible.
And we are waiting for that to begin. But Sandeep, I quickly want to come to you because Venezuela was raising questions about the safety of Maduro and his wife. In fact, Vice President of Venezuela, who had said that they've gone missing and the US must provide proof of life. This picture first on India Today. Does it convince and will it convince people that Maduro is alive, safe at the moment? and of course in the custody of the US military officials. Being taken, what next? Everybody is anxious, but the picture doing the talking.
Well, I have no information about President Maduro's whereabouts, but I can look at that photograph and tell you that that is exactly the way we look like, all of us defense journalists, that's me, Gaurav Sawant, whenever we fly into a US aircraft carrier, that is exactly the kind of, picture that we would click. And that's, the gear looks pretty much the same. You have the life preserve, you can see that, the helmet, all of that fits in with the profile of a passenger who's been, brought into a US warship, an amphibious assault ship or an aircraft carrier. So that much you can tell by looking at that photograph. So it's quite possible that that was taken either when Maduro was either offloaded on the Iwo Jima or either flown out of there. It pretty much fits in with the profile of pictures that are usually taken when journalists, civilians, other people fly in on those ferry flights. And there are a couple of aircraft that fly them. There are helicopters, of course, and you have the Greyhounds, which are basically short takeoff and landing aircraft, which are used for ferrying passengers and cargo and the stuff like that. So that's exactly what we look like when we fly on those flights. So it kind of fits in with the profile, and it's I mean, there are a couple of other photographs that have been doing the rounds which have now been proven to be fakes, but this one seems to be the real deal. And we'll hear from President Trump himself in a few minutes from now. There will be, of course, more than just photographs. I'm sure the interview that he gave Fox News, which Rohit was mentioning, he was pretty graphic on the fact that he could see a live stream of that operation. He says it was like watching a TV show, a reality show. And it's pretty much certain that the Delta operators or whoever the spec operators were in that mission, they had those helmet cams and they were live streaming the footage back to Trump. You're going to see those famous pictures of Trump in the Situation Room, like you did with President Barack Obama in 2011 when Operation Neptune Spear was carried out, when Osama bin Laden was, his compound was attacked and he was killed. So these kind of visuals are going to be, flashing out there, because this is, you have to give it to him. This is President Trump's big moment, and he's going to go to town with it. And every single president who has something to fear from the United States will be watching that news feed very closely, if not looking out of the window and or looking on their rooftops. Ashlesha.
Oh yes, absolutely.